Hello and welcome. I'm doing a little bit of a revisit of a tool called SkyMaxx Pro, which in the meantime has been updated in the last weeks and months quite regularly to version 4.9.5, which indicates that we're probably at some point might be seeing SkyMaxx Pro 5. I don't know. I hope not, because normally that means that I have to pay again. I have not been using SkyMaxx Pro for a very long time, and the reasons were, in the majority, the abysmal performance that I get with this tool compared to something like Ultra Weather XP. Now, having seen so many updates, I thought it is time that I'm going to have another look just to see how does it look and how does it feel and how does it perform. That's what this is about in this video. I have both tools installed now. The Ultra Weather is installed but turned off, and SkyMaxx Pro is installed together with a real weather connector, which you need in order to get Active Sky and so on integrated, which costs money, by the way, too, is a payware. So SkyMaxx Pro doesn't come cheap. And especially if you have it for a long time like me, I paid for every major update. So whenever the first digit of the version changed, I had to pay again. So this is probably the most expensive weather tool that I bought so far, when you take the summed up prices for the updates and all. We're looking here at Munich. I choose a very complex airport. I've chosen a complex aircraft. It's the IXCG, which, by the way, is down there at the runway. Let me quickly jump into the cockpit for you. So here. And we have no weather tool and no weather. So at the moment, with this aircraft, at this airport, with this high resolution, by the way, also OSM, it's the X-Europe V2 in this area. So I have everything maxed on this computer. We have 41 frames. I've limited it to 41 frames. Actually, I could turn off the limiting as well. Let me quickly show you my graphics settings. Maximum, high, maximum, highest quality, right? And yeah, what I can do actually is, for the testing purposes, I can turn off the FPS limiter, because we're not moving, so there's no problem with OBS. I limit the frames so that I can use OBS without too much interference by the simulator, because the graphic card has only so much resources, GPU-wise, memory-wise. Memory is not that much of an issue. I do have actually a good, very quick graphic card with a very quick bus with very, very fast RAMs. So exceeding the 11 gigabytes of the GTX 1080 Ti that I have is not a problem here. Okay. What is a problem, though, is if the GPU moves towards 100%. Actually, it already begins to be a problem when I am in and around 91, 92% by the simulator. Then I'm actually exceeding the 100%, which then means it has to compromise either at the simulator side or on the OBS side. And in my case, it usually ends up with some kind of stutters in the video, by whatever cost, doesn't matter, it stutters. So that's why I limit the frames, because that keeps the GPU load in and around 70, 60, 50. It depends a little bit on the environment. Here it is a bit higher, but because we're not moving and OBS doesn't really have to do that much, and the graphic card also, it's fine. So I can take out the limit, and if we go into the tower view, so you can see with this aircraft, with this very complex surrounding the airport and all of that, and no clouds and none of the tools running, I get, on the tower view, I get between 40 something to 52, 53 frames. So that's, at the moment, that's kind of the maximum performance that I can get out of this. So I'm not going to turn on any of the tools yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, well, let's go to scattered. So here are the unfortunately very ugly standard X-plane. Now, this looks a bit odd. Yeah, there's sort of a circle, and to be honest, this could already have been caused by the tools, because they do interfere with settings in X-plane, and I wasn't able to turn them off completely because I wanted to show you to them. So this is not the typical way that X-plane depicts weather. Yeah. So unfortunately, the test is a little bit interfered with by those tools, even if they're not running. Okay, so we're down to 46. Oops, wrong one. Let's go to overcast, and you can see we're in and around 34, 35. So it's not that with standard X-plane weather that you do get super hyper performance. No, not with these settings and in this environment. Things go down. I just want to show you what the difference... what am I doing here? What the difference is. So let's go to the ultimate, and that is stormy. That means we have also rain. And actually, rain in standard X-plane doesn't look that bad. Okay. Let's go to foggy. Yeah, also doesn't look too bad. So it always depends on how your simulator or your the software that you're using renders certain weather situations, and that differs between the vanilla simulator, Ultra Weather, and SkyMaxx Pro. So we can actually see that in the scenario that is supposedly the worst one, and that is stormy weather with rain. Now it's raining, but still, it's visibly raining now. Still, we have about 40 frames. One of the reasons for that is the X-plane does not render the clouds very far. You can see the bright part in on the horizon. We actually only have weather over the airport. So it's basically a square cloud moving with us. So obviously that is quite good for performance. It looks crap though. But you can see good performance, all right? So let me go back and switch this to clear. Apply change. We're back to our 50-something frames. And I'm now going to activate active Ultra Weather XP. So let's see, where is it? Ultra Weather XP. It's, by the way, still 251. I have not yet updated to 2.6. For me, the 2.61, first of all, I need to go through this new shop registration thing, then download. And, you know, I have tweaked 251 for many months now. Actually, I have it for at least for a year and a half or something. And it is successful. I like the way it produces my clouds and all. I am quite reluctant to go to this new version, especially due to the many issues there appear to have been. So I'm still waiting a little bit. I'm waiting that Ultra Weather stabilizes. By the way, I did the same thing with 2.5. Yeah, I had some issues with 2.5 as well. Activation, just one of them. And therefore, eventually I will endeavor to go with 2.6, but not yet. And for comparison, this is almost my perfect setting, since I've played around with freeware weather depiction tools and mods. I had uninstalled Ultra Weather and then I installed it again, and I somehow don't seem to be able to get back to where exactly I was before. So, for example, I get this horizon thing, which I've tried several times. It doesn't appear to... oh yeah, we need to turn it on. So let's turn this on. So, and you can already see, just with the fact that we're running a weather tool at clear weather, now the horizon is fixed again, but at least one of the two tools has changed the horizon setting, and then X-Plane looks strange when it's left alone without one of these tools. It's just the way it is, but in order to show you, that's why I do it. So auto weather is on. We already dropped 32 frames. Let's go into the aircraft. It's pretty much the same thing. So no clouds, nothing that in theory would take away frames. It's just the fact that ultra weather is running, which already produces this. Now, I've been playing a lot with the settings, and even in recent times I have started to change these values. You know, I mean, you can try all these things, automatic mode or not. The auto horizon I now set fixed because I don't like the way the horizon is depicted in the auto mode. That somehow has changed. I'm not sure why, how that happened. So when the cloud settings comes, I mean, there is a lot that you can do with regards to shadow and amount of clouds and so on. So if the frames are not sufficient for you, for me they are with 30 frames. If they stay like this, they won't, as we will see in a moment. Okay, so it's already, even in clear weather, we can already see, yeah, a reduction. You see here now the update message. There's a new version available. Okay, so let's go and pick the first one with real clouds. And now, what a difference to vanilla X-Plane. The clouds look actually quite good. That's, I mean, there must be an advantage of having X-Plane, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. So, first of all, you don't have the impression, although it probably is a bit like that you have a square over you. The clouds are bright and they're nice, and the fact that we have clouds has not really changed anything on our frames. So the cost of frames for turning on the tool, there is a cost obviously, as we've seen, but at the moment with this type of cloud, there is no real further degradation of the frames. Now let's go to overcast. Yeah. And that is a bit surprising because we dropped now quite drastically. I can't remember having that. Let's go into the aircraft. Actually, it's better in the aircraft, but with overcast you lose frames. Yeah, you lose frames because it has to draw more clouds, and it has to, yeah, it limits the visibility. It's still flyable, and I haven't done anything to scale down my display settings, which I would do if, for example, I want to fly online with a complex aircraft such as this here. I would actually bring down the settings. So I would have a slightly less anti-aliasing. I would have the object level I would bring down by at least one position, and that usually brings up the frames to be again back in the 30s, which is good because if it drops too close to 20, I have an issue with something like VATSIM, because then we go into this strange mode where the simulator has a different internal simulation rate, which is not good for online flying. You're actually getting disconnected. So we are borderline here, yeah, with this. And here at the tower view, you can really see how performance drops. And now let's go to the ultimate, normally ultimate and really difficult scenario with really bad frames, and that is thunderstorms and rain. And you can see it has changed actually the way it depicts the clouds. It looks different, and we are still at over 20, borderline though. I would probably not leave it like this, and there's no hole here. Yeah, so although we can see something at the horizon, I think the ultra-weather does well by hiding the fact that the clouds are not that far away. It is not that easy to see that there are actually no more clouds beyond that bright part. So there is a limit how far the clouds are drawn. And that's what I like about ultra-weather. Although the frames aren't great, again, I have maxed everything here. And max airport, max OSM, max mesh, orthos, high zoom level 18 orthos, and things like that. So it's the maximum you can do. And we still get roughly usable frames. 26 is still okay. And it's in the tower. So if I go into the aircraft, it's even a slightly bit higher. So I could actually fly with this and it still would feel and look okay. It's not perfect, but it's okay. Right, so let's try and do the same thing with SkyMaxx Pro. So I'm bringing back the weather to beauty. Our frames go up again. Now I'm going to turn ultra weather off again. And you see we jump back to our 45 frames in the aircraft, 55 in the tower, or 50, yeah, slightly over 50. One of the reasons why the frames are different between tower view and the aircraft is because when I'm looking out of the aircraft window, yeah, I don't see as much of the scenery. So the GPU doesn't have to do as much rendering because there aren't that many objects visible, at least expensive objects. Whereas if I go into the tower view, you have far more elements. You see in the far there's trees, there's the whole surrounding of Munich. And that takes a few frames. But no clouds means clouds are expensive. Cloud and weather depiction is very, very expensive compared to, for example, these things here. So that's why at the moment in the tower view without any clouds, we have higher frames because when I'm in the aircraft, it's actually the aircraft itself that takes away the frames, because for rendering the cockpit has a price too. And it differs from complex add-on to complex add-on. If you have a simple X-plane airplane with default instruments and things like that, usually you lose hardly any frame. Like take the Cessna, the standard laminar Cessna. You lose almost no frame. I would be in the 50s with the Cessna. Aircraft like this do actually eat frames. Yep, not too bad on this one. They're worse. Flight factor can be much worse when it comes to eating frames. So yeah, there you go. Now let's go back into the tower view. And now I'm going to activate SkyMaxx Pro. By the way, here's this real weather connector. I have it installed. I need it in order to get Active Sky and the likes to connect with SkyMaxx Pro. And that's one of the problems, that you need another payware tool in order to get weather from one of your other tools. I mean, that in itself is a weakness of SkyMaxx, and for me that means it's an expensive weakness actually, because if you buy a real weather connector, you pay again. And they haven't updated it for a long time, I guess, because there hasn't been really any changes. And it seems to be a perfect tool. So I'm now turning on SkyMaxx Pro, and we don't really see anything happening, right? So, and I can tell you the reason why we see nothing happening is because before I had to actually force stop my X-plane, because I had made a change here in the cloud area covered, which was at 10,000 or so in the default settings. So these are basically the default settings. I haven't really changed them. I turned off force zeros layer. I'm going to turn this on now. Let's do apply change, and then it puts some hardly to be seen zeros layer, I think, although I still don't see it. okay? But that probably maybe because of the cloud area cover, because at the moment we have 900 square kilometers. That's not very much. Don't be deceived, 900 isn't very much. It's square kilometers, so it's a very small area where the clouds would be. So I'm going to put it back to where it was. Default-wise, it was at and around 11,000, if I remember correctly, something like that. I'm going to apply that change. So we are still at 50, obviously, because there is not a single cloud that it would draw. Now I'm doing the following. I'm increasing this to the maximum. Let's see. Yeah, because we don't have clouds, that doesn't do anything. But I can tell you that if we would leave this and change the weather now, we would be in deep trouble. Basically, our simulator would stop. So let's apply the change again. Still good frames. And I leave all the other settings. There aren't that many. You see, ultra weather has far more settings. It can be sometimes a little bit complicated with ultra weather, but this one has almost none. You can turn on and off reflections. You can do the lens flare on or off. I usually turn it off. Cloud shadows, yeah, I have it on at 0.5. And yeah, this and then this blend thing, which we can try and play with. See if it makes any difference. Okay, so we've applied the change, and now let's go to our first cloud scenario, which is scattered. And it takes some time for those clouds to very slowly come and get visible. Contrary to ultra weather, where there were really clear clouds, you get this kind of fuzzy, yeah, they are very fuzzy, those clouds. I don't know if you can switch the clouds to be like the one we've seen in ultra weather, which are very clear, visible clouds on a day like this. This is really quite fuzzy. Performance went down a little bit, but not too bad. Let's let's get into the cockpit. Yep, same performance in the cockpit. All right. Okay, let's go to the next scenario with these settings that I have. It doesn't look nice. It performs okay, but it does not look nice. Let's go to the overcast and see what happens now. So overcast, first of all, doesn't look like overcast to me, right? And you can see, by the way, I can get up to 75 frames if there's nothing to be rendered. Overcast to me looks, there's a hole above me, and then, yeah, it almost looks, it doesn't look like overcast. To me, it looks more like a murky day. Not every overcast scenario would have also fog, basically, because that's the trick. They use quite an intense mist here in order to hide the fact that the clouds are not that far away. It normally looks strange in X-Plane, for example, standard weather. It would look strange, and you can already see performance has dropped and depends on where we are, but. Yeah, so in the cockpit, not too bad. Same reasons as before, because it doesn't have to render too much of the outside thing. So the visibility of outside is restricted. All right, let's go to the next and ultimate. So this doesn't look too bad. Let's go to the tower again. But here, it's abysmal. So in the cockpit, it's sort of okay. But the problem is, if you have abysmal performance like this here, you can wait that under certain circumstances, the performance in the cockpit will also drop. Maybe not to 11, but yeah, it definitely has quite a cost. So with ultra weather, I stayed above the 20 mark. Here I'm way below, and therefore I'm in this mode. This would be unsuitable for online flying. And to be honest, it just looks like no. This to me is not what I would see in reality when there is a storm. Yeah, I don't like the way this is depicted here at all. It's very fuzzy. Basically, you have this yeah, fuzzy cloud presentation. Now, let's see if we can do something with the performance. So the cloud cover we have already put down. So let's bring down the softness and see if that makes a discernible difference. This blend thing. Well, it kind of improves things a little bit. So at least we are at 18 and not at 11. But it looks even less inspiring than before, to be honest. Yeah, this to me, maybe it's better than the X-Plane standard, but to me this doesn't look nice. This is, I don't know, I don't like it, and the performance is still not very good. At least in the cockpit, here, we're above the 30, which I guess is not unimportant. Yeah. But I'm not impressed. So let's do the following. I'm going to pause the simulator now. I'm going to use the map. We leave this bad weather because it's supposed to be kind of an overcast with thunderstorms situation. I'm going to click here and I'm going to bring the aircraft up into, let's say, flight level. Roughly flight level 320. Very roughly. Let's close this. And yeah, obviously those clouds, apart from the abysmal performance, by the way, yeah, we have not yet gone through the clouds. Maybe we are inside a thunderstorm cell or something. Let's go to, no, not that high. Let's go to flight level 380, which is kind of the maximum, I think. We just about gone through, and this is, yeah, it's some murky, very badly performing, and I'm paused, by the way, so we're not even moving. So you can already see that does not really work. Although I have already tuned down the settings. So let's go to there and let's bring down the cover. That's, by the way, when I had to stop the simulator afterwards, because when I applied this, we never came back. Let's see if that, okay. So I've minimized the cloud area covered to 1,476 square miles. That is nothing. And if they wouldn't use all this haze here to cover, to hide basically the clouds, this would look crap, basically. But even without that, it looks crap. For me, this is not what I would see when I'm in the cockpit of an airliner at flight level 380. That's basically not what you see. Yeah, and as I say, there isn't that much I can try and really bring down everything. So I'm bringing down the cloud, the puff rotation, I say apply changes, so absolute minimum. And yes, if I basically turn everything off, because that's what it is, the clouds disappear. We have this haze thing. This has nothing to do with real cloud depiction. And we have 23 frames, which is not great either. You have not so good frames and you have really crap looking weather. That's the reality. Now let's try and see if we can. So this is what this weather should look like. I mean, okay, this is not beautiful either in X-Plane, but at least it looks like clouds. Yeah, you're going through clouds and not through some gray, white, nothing. Let's see what ultra weather does with this. And yep, that's what ultra weather does. Not perfect either, but at least you see clouds. Okay, and I'm going to quickly change the weather. Let's go to overcast. Yeah, so overcast with holes, that can be changed though, because you can go to ultra weather, go to the settings, go to the cloud settings, and you can actually change the size of the clouds, but beware, the bigger you make those clouds, your frames go down. So this is a, again, this is a frame eater. So what I do is I basically modify them. Can also do the number of clouds, which interestingly, the amount of clouds, which doesn't seem to do that much when it comes to frames, but the size of the clouds definitely do. So I just play around here, and then I can create something that looks pretty much like an overcast layer. Yeah, if you look at that, let's go outside and look around. You can see still some edges here, okay, but especially in front of us, the edges are very well hidden, I think, and we're still in around 30 frames. That is the big difference between ultra weather and the likes of SkyMaxx. Also XEnviro is exactly the same thing. Okay, I think that's enough. My case rests. No, I won't be using SkyMaxx Pro. It doesn't look at all like I want it to look. Since I have ultra weather, I know what it can look like. It's not perfect. It doesn't perform perfect, but it looks good and it performs reasonably well. With my really high settings that I have, I really have here the impression that I'm over a more or less closed cloud layer. And the individual holes that we see here, they're not unrealistic. Not every overcast cloud layer is 100% closed. There are holes in between. That's fine, because overcast just means that that you have basically a layer of clouds that is quite tight. The clouds kind of close in on each other, but that doesn't mean that there are holes. There are holes even in real life. And it's not that realistic either, because normally you do not have a kind of a level cloud layer. Very often you do have that too, but very often you also have cumulus and other things that kind of plume up from the base layer here of clouds. That is not possible to depict in the simulator. I'm not sure if ultra weather 2.6 simulates something like that, strews in maybe some kind of cumulus objects in between the very basic layer. I don't know, I can't tell you. And thunderstorms, none of the tools can depict properly. That's just X-Plane doesn't really cater for that. X-Plane doesn't know about real thunderstorm clouds and the way they are done. It always looks like a bad weather day with a overcast layer. That's none of the tools has been able to really change this. So I'm going to stay with ultra weather for the moment, and yeah, I'm not sure that I'm going to use SkyMaxx Pro ever again, because it hasn't really changed. It hasn't solved the main problems, and therefore, unfortunately, my verdict for me personally is nope. Not going to use it. I'm definitely not going to pay for another update should it come out. Should they move to version 5, because I can't see how they will improve things so drastically that it looks better than this here. Thanks very much for watching. Sorry if I've talked your tool bad, if you love SkyMaxx Pro, but I'm just giving you the facts from my end. Until next time.